What is going on, everyone? Welcome again to Last Year Tonight. 2020 was so long that we had to tack an extra episode onto the end of this series. It's almost the end of January, and we're still talking about all of last year because it was just that kind of a year. I'm your host for this episode, Steve Bowling. As always, I'm joined by my co-founders in Good Vibes Gaming, Ash Paulson in the upper left, Derrick Bittner in the upper right, me down here on bottom. You probably know how this goes by now because we've done 4 of these. And it's episode 40, kind of, in a weird way. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, it is time for me to throw it to the master of ceremonies, Derrick Bittner, the man with the wiki, and no nickname that I could come up with off the top of my head. Where did we leave off?
Before you toss it to me, I believe there's something you need to read.
I knew I'd mess it up. All right, before we begin, this episode, like last episode somehow of Last Week Tonight, is sponsored by Microphone. Are you tired with the negativity in games coverage? Are you looking for a new game to play? Well, good news. Microphone is starting a new series, finding all the good in media that's considered underrated, forgotten, or downright mediocre. This Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, a quick look at the newest Bubsy game will go live, and then on the weekend, he'll be doing his very first live stream, doing a Nuzlocke run in Pokemon Black 2. I think Derrick knows a thing or two about Nuzlocke runs.
I might have done 4 Nuzlocks in my time, yes.
Yeah, so it is compelling stuff. Make sure to head over to Microphone's channel. There will be a link down in the description, and check that out. And no, Michael is not an actual phone, Jake Pelka. At least I don't think so. He writes really well if he is indeed a phone. But with that said, now it is actually time to toss it to the master of ceremonies, Derrick Bittner, no nickname, because I can't figure it out. Where did we leave off? Did I replicate that well?
I believe so. We left off in November because for some reason there's a lot of games getting released. And of course we reached November. It's like, oh right, we have 2 console launches happening. But before that console happened, we had, I mean, I have to talk about it a little bit because it's just so out of nowhere and made a much bigger thing than it actually had any right to really be focused on like this. And that is, of course, November 3rd, Bakugan, Champions of Vestroia.
Nice.
Because all I can say about this is poor Way Forward.
I know.
They had to have known, like, when this, like, Nintendo hyped up something else happening for that direct. Like, oh no, not this.
No, I think it's safe to say that Bakugan Champions of Vestroia destroyed my hopes and dreams when I was thinking about what cool, amazing announcement that Nintendo had to make with Way Forward. I'm like, what are we going to get here? This is going to be exciting. And then it ended up being Bakugan. So, I do feel bad for Way Forward because that they knew expectations for this would be inflated just by virtue of the way it was, the announcement was teased, right? And they knew that there is no way that was going to live up to the hype that had unintentionally been created for this announcement.
Would you say there was no way forward for Bakugan?
I would indeed.
Oh wow.
I would indeed.
That's it. That's my pun
that's
for the
two
year.
puns. We got Destroya and Way Forward. I love it.
Yeah,
I just call you 2 the champions and move on because I can't squeeze anything out from this title. But yeah, I've not played it. It didn't look that great. I'm vaguely more aware of what the heck Bakugan is now, but that doesn't mean I'm picking it up.
I felt so bad for these guys. They sent me, they were like, "Hey, do you want to preview Bakugan?" They sent me an email, and I was like, "No." No, I would not. And then, and I think we ended up passing it off to someone else because this was at the GX during the GX days. And then they just sent me toys like Bakugan. I got a box, and it was like I had just recently been talking crap about Bakugan on Twitter and in videos. And then I just randomly got a box sent to my house. And I was like, oh, God, what could be in this box? I'm so sorry for everything I've said. Please don't explode. And I opened it, and it was just a ton of different Bakugan toys. And they're like, we hope you're looking forward to the release of Bakugan. I'm still like, no, I'm not. And I opened all these toys, and I was like, I don't even know how to play with these. I don't know what you do with Bakugans. Uh-huh. And my kid, he saw them and he's like, "Can I have those?" I was like, "Sure." I mean, they're definitely not for me.
Kind of the point.
And he just saw one, because they're little balls or something, and you open them and there's a little toy or whatever inside. And he stared at it for a minute. He tried to puzzle how to open it, and then he just hucked it into the ground as hard as he could. And he's like, "Well, that was fun." I was like, "Well, we have the same opinion of Bakugan then."
Oh, poor kid. Oh well. But,
Ooh, Michael phone with another good one. Our hopes are Bakugan. Very, very nice.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
Firebird. I had Bakugan as a kid, and I still don't know what to do with it. So, yep.
Yikes.
None of us do.
Oh,
I like this description
Chrysero
of,
says.
oh, yeah, I think you got it.
I was going to say, Chrysler says there's balls with a magnet on the underneath, and when it's on the card, the ball opens up. So it interacts with the cards and kind of has that kind of thing. I don't know.
I mean, when he describes it that way, it sounds neat. But when I had them, they didn't look neat.
They didn't have instructions?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'll be honest. I gave it as much effort as I have interest in Bakugan. Like, I opened them and just dumped them
I mean,
out.
all I saw was like, here's two big monsters battling while your kid runs around giving orders, and it's like, no, I'm good.
Cryzeros also gave what I think is probably the maybe unintentionally funniest description I've ever seen of Bakugan, which is that it's like Beyblade, but instead of tops, it's balls. Well, there you go. That perfectly
Bayballs.
describes the
There
entire
you go.
concept of Bakugan.
Oh, Beyblade has its own sort of weirdness to it because both of them have like tie-in anime, of course.
Of course.
But I believe there's I know from Twitter, there's apparently a scene in the anime that Beyblades are so ancient, and because you had Yu-Gi-Oh with the whole ancient Egyptian thing. Well, in Beyblade, that is how Moses parted the Red Sea. He used a Beyblade.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That sounds great, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. What do you do except just?
I mean, we
laugh?
got
That's
ancient
it.
Egyptian
Yeah.
card games. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our next date, which is really November 6th. And I'm not going to dwell on this too much just because they kind of passed me by, but that was a big racing day where we got Dirt 5 and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. Neither of which, maybe because I wasn't really paying attention, but they just kind of showed up and left, which is weird because apparently it's based on the Hot Pursuit on PS3 done by, what is it, Criterion?
Criterion?
I have it right here on PS3. Yeah, Criterion. It just happened to be right next to me, which I enjoyed. It's a nice sort of almost follow-up to Burnout, but I didn't hear them talk about this game at all.
Yeah,
I didn't either. It's really a shame, too, because as I've said before, I really like arcade racers, but neither of these really made much of a splash. I know, Steve, you said, I think I mentioned that Dirt 5 looked like it might be appealing because it seems to be a little more arcadey than prior Dirts. But then you said you played it, and it left a lot to be desired, I believe, correct?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a little unfair, my judgment of the game, but I'm a firm believer that, especially with how many games there are, that first impressions are really everything. And when I got my review unit of the Xbox Series X, they sent over Dirt 5. And, I mean, they didn't say there was anything wrong with it. So I just played it, and everything was wrong with it. Like, it didn't run very well, like, at all. I had my wife had bought me the OLED that you now have, Ash, that
Yes.
supports all the cool features that the new consoles support. And Dirt was on the very short list of games that supported 120 FPS. And I was like, wow,
Right.
I can play a game in 120 FPS. I need to see what this looks like. And, Ash, you and I are both known for our sensitivity to frame rates. Like, we can, I know that
Yes.
Derrick isn't a big frame rate guy, but I was like, yeah, it ran really smooth, but it also would just pause. Like the game was going too fast or something. Like every couple seconds, the game would like pause to catch up to itself. And that is like a cardinal sin in a racing game. So I don't know if they ever patched it. I just was like, yeah, I'm done with this. This is not entertaining at all. At least Forza runs in 60 FPS all the time. I'll take the half frame rate, and leave the pauses out. That said, maybe I'll come back to Dirt and check it out eventually. But no, it didn't do anything for me. And even if it did run really well, I think I prefer Forza, even though it's more sim-like. It just feels like a better driving experience to me.
I like the Forza Horizon games. Those are the ones
yeah,
I
sorry.
really like get into.
When I say Forza, I am talking about Horizon 4. Like that game is just so good. So good.
I essentially got an Xbox One S for because I was able to get a huge discount on it. And I basically got that for Forza Horizon 3, and I don't regret it. Still, I didn't play much else on my Xbox One S, but what an amazing game. And I just wish those games were not exclusive to Xbox because I, love Forza Horizon. But, such as it is. Yeah.
I do miss, though. There is a hole that needs to be filled, like, with a Burnout style, like, just arcadey, crazy, smash 'em up kind of game. Like, I miss the old Burnouts, like pre-Paradise Burnout. That needs to come back.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It looks so beautiful, and can imagine what they would do nowadays.
Yeah.
And I played a ton of Paradise back in the day as well.
Paradise is good too,
Really
and the Switch port of Paradise is incredible. Like, it's
surprisingly
really good.
Right? I played a bit of it. Yeah.
If only.
Yeah.
Well, time for a big day, November 10th, the launch of the Xbox Series X, which means a lot of re-releases going down through here. But I guess one of the first of our new releases, if I'm remembering this correctly, this is also when Assassin's Creed Valhalla really came out. I have not played
about that.
I think you're right. Valhalla, I haven't played much of. Only because another fun story. There was a weird thing. Microsoft did both the greatest and the most difficult to comprehend thing when giving out these consoles. They sent like books of codes, like just, hey, here's a dozen codes, like way more than I could possibly play. But there were also issues with a lot of the codes, like some didn't work and some were just like generic pre-order codes. And so Assassin's Creed fell into the latter camp. It was just a pre-order code for like the retail release of the game. And they didn't say that. So like I was emailing them back and forth and being like, hey, I would love to test Assassin's Creed on the Series X, but it doesn't work. Like it tells me I have to wait to unlock it. And if you don't know, like 9 times out of 10, when you're reviewing a game, you get a code that, redeems through the store the same way you would anything else, but it unlocks early. So, and in the past, Microsoft has handled that in a number of ways. More recently, they just send you a code like any other platform that just works right then. But with some of their games, they would send a code for the game that would pre-order it for you, and then a second code that would unlock the game. And so I was thinking like, oh, they just need to send me an unlock code. But no. So they didn't do that. And if you don't know, after the reviews for these consoles came out, I left and I started a new channel with my friends right up here. And so there really wasn't I was a little busy and I didn't get to play a ton of Assassin's Creed after that. But I have played a bit, and it is a really good game. And specifically on the Series X, it runs very well if you have a really fancy TV, because it uses variable refresh rate technology, or VRR.
Oh, cool.
And what that means is that the TV syncs up to how many frames per second the console is putting out, so it looks incredibly smooth, even if it's not running incredibly smooth. Now, what I understand is if you have a normal TV, like 99.98% of people, that it doesn't run so great. So I apologize, but my experience has been very good.
I've not been an Assassin's Creed fan, really. I've played maybe the first 2 games a little bit, not really my thing, but Valhalla is the one probably the only one that I've seen since the series was a thing that I actually have been thinking, like, I kind of want to play this. I think probably because of just the general subject matter and the settings that appeals to me personally, but I actually kind of want to play this game, and this comes from somebody who does not care about Assassin's Creed and thinks the funniest thing about it is being able to call it Ass Creed because I'm like 12 years old.
There's the one thing I will say before we move on from this is that one, I like that Ubisoft has done a lot of work incorporating female protagonists into most of their series, most notably Assassin's Creed, especially because they caught heat a while back for saying like, oh, women are hard to animate, or like
I remember.
I believe it was also said by the guy that got in trouble this year. So
yeah, I was
there
gonna
you
say
go.
also So Ubisoft has done a great job writing the ship in terms of that, and I like that Eivor can be male or female, and they just kind of like, it's no difference, you know? It's not like it's a different storyline. It's not like there's, you know, you're treated differently because you're a woman in the world of Assassin's Creed. It's just, you're the protagonist, and you're either a man or a woman, and you can switch between them at will, which I think is really cool.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so you're not like locked into either choice. And I will say that they changed, like, there's the pre-Origins Assassin's Creed, and then there's the post-Origins, and I kind of fell off when Origins came out because they went with a more Dark Souls-like control structure. But something about the way they've tuned combat for this latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it just feels really good. I'm like completely back into the series now, so I will finish it this year. Just ask me again in November-ish if I've beaten it yet.
Gotcha. By that time, there'll be another one. I have not played it myself. I have not played an Assassin's Creed game since finishing the Ezio trilogy. I started up Assassin's Creed 3, but I had been marathoning them at that point, and I was burnt out. This was back when 4 was still fresh. I was trying to work my way toward 4, which I heard was also very good. And I've heard they've been getting on like an upward path really ever since 4, because 3 was kind of the low point for most people. 4 was definitely a good thing. Everybody loved the pirate ships. And ever since, what is it, Origins? Odyssey, people have been raving about how good these games have been. I think the low point was the one that took place in France. But either way, there was so many Assassin's Creed games. It's hard to keep up with them. But I do have a good friend who has been playing the hell out of Odyssey and loved it to death. And I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat talking about the same way. Adam O'Sullivan, I recently platinumed Valhalla, and I rarely platinum games. I felt it was a perfect balance between the classic and modern Assassin's Creed games.
Yep.
DJ Boss said, my sister played Valhalla and said she liked it, but I am so behind in the series that it didn't seem worth it for me, which is, I can definitely see that. And Sci-Fi Lullaby says, that game was the first time I've ever been invested in a game storyline. I love everything about it. So, yeah. All very, very good reactions to them. I don't know. Maybe I'll get back into it, but I'm not one of those weird people that like to play in order of release.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
I
totally
think
get
with Assassin's Creed, you don't necessarily have to pass a certain point.
It seems
but
to not be a big deal after the third game. Like they're
yeah,
just sort
I was
of like,
gonna say,
like there's still modern stuff, but it's like you don't care about it. We know.
yeah. Real quick before we move on, I want to do a tiny bit of housekeeping. So I'm going to rearrange our screen here. My co-hosts don't know what it looks like technically. Here we go. In the upper right, you might notice some cute fluffy bunnies. We've decided to revamp our Promote a Pet tier. So now, at random points during the show, we will have beautiful rabbits, kittens, and other things for you to enjoy. You can see their names in that lovely TNT font and the person that submitted them. So if you want to join and have your pet promoted here on TNT, then go head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/gvgaming for more details on how you can do that. And we'll just ask you for a pet photo that you're comfortable with us sharing. And we'll put it right here on the screen next to us while we talk about video games or whatever. So
also, let's get some dog people in that tier, please, because I love cats, but I also love dogs.
Yeah, we don't have a single floof in this tier yet. So, we, as someone who owns 2, I would love to see some doggos up here.
Nice.
All right. Anyway, please continue.
All right. Next up, looking through here. Because again, a lot of re-releases. Speaking of, I haven't played it all. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. I love 5 Original. Wouldn't mind picking up Special Edition at some point just to check out what the Virgil DLC is like, but otherwise don't need to really worry about it. I guess Gears Tactics new? Did that come out with the release of Series X on both that?
Yes. It was a brand new release, but I think it was out on PC before this. I'm fairly certain
it was, from what I understand.
Yeah. Yes, that's weird. It did come out on Windows first on April 28th and then launched with the Series X.
Yeah, this is one of those 10th. Games that I call like Game Pass padding. Like it's just there. It's like, oh, Microsoft put out another game. All right. I mean, I have very little interest in Gears after 3. I think, is where I kind of started to fall off the series. I was like, okay, they're all kind of the same. And, like, I never thought, you know what this needs? To be a tactical game. Like,
That's what I don't get.
I mean, Halo did it. I guess it was time for Gears. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't like it when Halo did it either.
I at least enjoy, watching the campaign of Gears 4 and 5. Like, I still enjoy the series just kind of like from a distance. And I like the new protagonist they have post 3.
Yeah,
I think she's pretty cool. But, like, not once have I ever thought, like you were saying, Gears of War needs to be made a tactics game. Like, that's just, I don't really see the appeal of that personally, but, also not made for me. So, as you said, Steve, Game Pass padding.
Yep.
Yeah. Going down the line, next up was not a Series X launch title, because looking through Series X launch titles, there's not really that many original games. There's a lot of just ports, from what I can tell. I'll be honest, I did not look at Series X too much, but at least alphabetically, next up is Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, which I did a review for and really enjoyed this. This was a year of me coming around on at least certain life sim games, because it's always been a genre I've never got into. I'm not really into farming. I'm not really into the life sim stuff, but man, Spiritfarer nailed it, and Sakuna found a great balance between farming and just this really solid 2D action with some very fun characters, interesting lore and conversations, and really they made me interested in the process of growing rice. The more you, like, when you start your first crop, you're going to suck at this because they give you no instructions whatsoever, and it's a wide open field, and you're like, hey, plant these 10 or 20 shoots of rice, and you're like, how? Like, how should they be spaced? What is it? It's not grid based like in other farming games. So you're just placing it sort of wherever. And I'm like, oh God, I suck at this. And you get through the first one, you get your first harvest. And as you do the tasks more, you get special abilities saying, here's how they should properly be spaced. Here's like, maybe you should fill it to this, the water this level at this time. It's really, you sort of learn, you get better at it. You see the mechanics of it, how it all works, what you want to do, how much time you want to put into it to get the best yield. And the better your rice yield is, the more levels Sakuna gains. That's not how she doesn't level up by combat. She levels up through that. But combat gets you materials that you can then use for either other quests or with the rice harvest. It's really good and highly recommended. It's a true surprise this year, and apparently did way better than I expected, especially on the Switch.
Right. Yeah. Well, my best friend really enjoyed this game. He finished it not too long ago and said he really thoroughly enjoyed it. And went so far as to say that if not for FF7 Remake, that it might have even been his favorite game of the year.
I can see that. It has a great style.
He really liked it. And this is something I played a little bit of at some E3 or another, some show, E3 or PAX or something. And I was instantly, my curiosity was piqued by it. Of course, I haven't had a chance to actually play the game, but it seems like something I might enjoy. I don't know about the farming stuff, but Derrick, you were much like me in that you don't really enjoy that kind of, farming life sim stuff as well, and yet you still really enjoyed this and Spiritfarer. So clearly there's room for people like us who don't really enjoy those sim elements to be brought in on some titles. And I'm curious about this one for sure.
Yeah, this one is on my list of games to play this year. I have it. I bought it. I just haven't played it. And I bought it strictly based on, like you, Ash, I saw it at E3 or some such show, and I really liked what I saw. The art style for this game is gorgeous. I love the art in this game, and I feel like so many games are moving away from that. I want to call it like a video game anime aesthetic. Like, I feel like now that we can realize television anime type visuals in video games, a lot of developers go for that, but there is kind of this unique like late 90s kind of anime aesthetic that permeated video games back then that they couldn't quite fully realize, and I feel like Sakuna looks like what I imagined those games would be if they weren't limited by hardware. Like, this is almost what I imagined Final Fantasy VII would have looked like, with like the little SD cloud cloud model.
Yeah,
I
I can
figure
see
it would have been closer to something from Sakuna had they not been limited by hardware. But yeah, I can't speak to more than the visuals, but God, do I love what I see when I look at this game.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, the next little game came out. I have not played it personally, but I know apparently it's just fantastic. The original Tetris Effect was great. Then they added multiplayer thanks to Connected. And I think, Steve, you got to try this out a bit.
Yes, this was another one of the fabled Xbox Series X booklet games. So I did get this and I played it quite a bit. And John was raving about this game.
Right.
And John, he's a man of taste. So I was like, you know what? I should probably check this out. And I was not disappointed. This is absolutely a game that you play with headphones on. Like, get into it, get in the zone. It is thrilling to play. And I'm not a Tetris guy at all. Like, I dislike Tetris. So, you know, for me to enjoy a Tetris game, like, I had to pull my wife into the room and I was like, look at this. This is crazy. You know, I had her put the headphones on and play through it herself too. And it's just a trip, like an actual trip. So I would highly recommend
this. Oh, I mean, I love the original Tetris Effect. I mean, I love it. Yeah, I love it to death. I have not gotten to play the connected multiplayer stuff yet, although, as you said, Steve, John loves it, and I love John, and I think he has fantastic taste. So it's certainly something that's on my radar to check out, but just Tetris Effect in general, I adore this game, and I can't recommend it highly enough, and I'm sure the multiplayer is just as good as I've heard.
Yeah, I hope that this comes to well, I guess Connected came out on Windows too, but that doesn't help you. But
I mean, I might be tempted to get it on PS5, even though I already have it on PS4.
Well, it's not out on PS5, not yet.
I know, that's the thing. If it comes
True.
to be a PS5, that's more my thing.
Regular Tetris Effect is, but Connected, I think, is a timed exclusive. Is that correct on Xbox?
I believe
Series
so.
X?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's interesting that they snapped this up as an exclusive, but it works. It's a great game. So, you know, if for some reason you have a Series X or S and you don't have this, go get it. It's definitely worth it. And I believe it's on Game Pass anyway. So
yeah, there you go.
There's no reason not to.
I'm reading now. The Connected expansion will be made available for other platforms as a free update in 2021.
Okay,
Nice.
so I can just do it on PS4 and be fine. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Next up, just as a quick side, 13 was re-released, which was an old, I think, PS2 era FPS.
This was re-released.
Not good, apparently. It did not capture
Really?
anything well. It was just kind of a mess. I only remember it because I think the main character was played by, what the heck's his name? He was Batman in the 60s.
Adam West.
Oh, Adam West?
Adam West, yeah. Wasn't he voiced by Adam West?
I doubt it,
sure.
only because Adam West passed away.
Well, no, this is the original game.
Oh, what is it? Oh, the original, not the new version. Oh,
yes,
then
he was voiced
Then they might
by,
have pulled the voices.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
in the 03 version, he was voiced by Adam West. You're correct.
Okay.
I thought so. But yeah,
Heck,
they didn't capture anything about that original game. That it was already like this cult classic that not many people played in the first place, I think. And then they even screwed that up. So now all those dedicated fans are like, yeah, screw you.
The thing that struck me about this was that I've never played 13, but I watched some side by sides because I wanted to figure out why people were so upset about this. And good lord, like they just messed up the art style so bad. Like one of the easiest things to get right. Like you just have to look at the game and be like, oh, just make it look like that, but in HD. And no, it's completely different from a visual perspective as well, and not in a good way. Like not FF7 to FF7 remake. It is like somebody just tried to make a really bad, bland, generic version of 13. Like it's ugly. And it's a shame because even though I'm not a fan, I feel real bad. Like it would be such a gut check to be a fan of a game, find out it's getting a re-release, a remake, and that it's just the worst possible version. That just sucks.
It sounds like that's what happened to SpongeBob as well.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, we'll finish off November 10th with an amazing game, apparently. Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Man.
Hell yes.
I
can't wait to play this.
Eventually I'll get to it, but again, I have my whole thing of playing it in order, series in orders, and I know you can just jump into Like a Dragon, but I'm going to wait, even though it looks amazing.
It is so good.
I mean, yeah.
I say this as someone who isn't deep into the Yakuza series, who's played a couple games, not finished any, but I am playing through Like a Dragon, and even my wife, like, she's like, you can't play this when I'm not there, because she's already like, we're 3 chapters in and she's just wrapped into the story. Like, she wants to know what happens.
That's
and
awesome.
I've been spoiled a little, like because, and again, I hate this feature, but like when you're in the dashboard of a game and you have a game highlighted, the Xbox is like, look at clips from people that have played this game, and like an idiot, I clicked it, and it was like
that's a
an
trap.
end game spoiler. I was like, son of a bitch. Like, why did I click this?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So but in a weird way, it did motivate me to go further, because I know now, I know points A and Z, but I don't know how you get between them. And
Right.
I'm early enough that I'm like, this doesn't make sense at all. So I want to know how the game makes it make sense.
I love absolutely everything I've seen and heard of this game. I've wanted to get into Yakuza for a long time. It's really only been for lack of time that I haven't. This series has been on my radar forever. And Like a Dragon specifically has been because of the very special things I've heard about it from not only you, Steve, but my good friend Kat Bailey. I love the whole Dragon Quest homage. There's so much about this game that is right up my alley, and I have a copy sitting right in front of me, out in the main TV room on the coffee table. It's there waiting to be played. I got it for Christmas. It's just a matter of when am I going to play it. But at this point, I'm probably going to get to it after the PS5 update
That's
hits.
what I was going to
I think
suggest.
early March. So I might as well just wait at this point anyway. But yeah, I love everything I've seen about this game, and I want to play both it and the Kazuma games as well. At least 0, 1, 2, and 6, if not the whole series. But again, it's just a matter of when am I going to do that.
Yeah, I own 0 through 5. So I'll
Right.
get to it eventually. I'm probably going to try to stream it this year at some point, the Yakuza series, or at
And
least
I
one
I
of
think
them.
that's a great idea.
I didn't realize this, but Juan in the chat says, also, Roger Craig Smith, voice of Sonic, drops an F-bomb in Like a Dragon. Now I really need to play this series. I didn't know that, but I'm listening to that in my head now, and I'm just thinking of Sonic's Roger Craig Smith voice dropping an F-bomb, and that.
The other thing, real quick before I move on, the only other thing I could really say is in Persona 5 Strikers, and I've seen a screenshot of this on Twitter, so it's out there from the preview area that I can talk about. You have the movie theater from Persona 5 that you can check out, and Makoto's hanging around it, and she says, "Oh man, that movie Like a Dragon Yakuza is playing. I really want to see that, but we're in an investigation, so we should probably do that instead." So it's just like, okay, SaGa, I get you.
Nice.
I
like that.
love that. So before we move on, a couple of things. Do we want to talk about, in general, the Xbox Series X and S at all, or are we good on
I think that's worth talking about, even though I
Yeah.
can't say anything too much personally because I don't own one. I haven't even really seen one, but yeah.
Right. I definitely want to do
is
this
mostly Steve.
because I want to talk about the PlayStation 5 as well. So the Series X, one, I immediately got the feeling that, and I stand by this now after a few months of owning it, that it's not going to light the world on fire. It's not going to do poorly by any means, but it's also not exciting. And what I mean by that is you open it up, and the most exciting thing about the Series X is the design of the hardware. Like, and what I mean is like the physical look and feel of the device. Like, not the internals, not the guts. None of that's exciting to most people, I think. But you get this thing, and it's small. Like it's like a mini tower of a PC or something. And
Yeah.
when you compare it, especially next to the PlayStation 5, like, it feels incredible that it's performance-wise that it can keep up because it's so much smaller. I will be the first to admit that in terms of the PlayStation and the Xbox, I enjoy the aesthetic of the Xbox way more. It's small, it's black, it's unobtrusive. It just kind of stays out of the way. But it seems like that's also what Microsoft's plan was for the Xbox in general, because software-wise, it is unobtrusive and not exciting also. And that is unfortunate because, it's got the horsepower to compete with the PS5, it feels like anyway. our good friends at Digital Foundry have done comparisons and found that they're just like last gen. They're within sniffing distance of each other from a power standpoint. But Microsoft just opted like, hey, let's just reuse the same operating system. Let's not update the controller. Let's make everything look and feel the same way the Xbox One did. And I don't know if they were asleep, but the Xbox One didn't light the world on fire either. Like, people weren't out in the streets like, get the Xbox One. Like, no one was super hyped for this thing when it came out. And it kind of maintained a steady pace of releases that kept it afloat, but no one was really super hyped about the Xbox. I mean, if you even look at our contemporaries in games media, Kind of Funny just started an Xbox related podcast, when the Series X came out. They didn't have one all of last gen. Our friends who picked up John over at Nintendo Life didn't have an Xbox related property until the Series X came out. The people didn't care. And I think what you're going to see in the next few years is that the initial hype of release is going to die off, and the Xbox will be this thing that quietly continues to exist, while Microsoft tries to make the case to get themselves and their users out of the hardware biz. I have a feeling
it's a Game Pass machine.
Yeah, it's a Game Pass machine is what it is, and I think that they realize that there are still people that want consoles, but I don't think Microsoft wants us to want them. I think they want us to just want their services, and they don't want to have to manufacture these things anymore. I would be surprised if 2 generations from now, I'm going to say that next generation will still get something, but the generation after that, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft just pulls out of the hardware business and says, hey, subscribe to us and play all your Halo games on a PlayStation streamed through a server that we have in the back end.
I agree with you.
Veteran Hotek says Series X I would just use as a backwards compatibility machine, and that's basically what I've saw John do. He was constantly checking out games out with backwards compatibility on the Series X and just how much better they ran, and that is exciting on its own, because to have that kind of legacy, to easily be able to play a lot of these old games, there is something really nice about that, especially if you record or stream them, making it a lot easier so you don't have to go back and shift between consoles is a nice feature, especially if they run better. Or if you missed out on them originally. Another great use for Game Pass. It's a shame that Sony doesn't do that a bit more. But I finally saw a Series X out in the wild. Not like in a box, but as a display at Best Buy. And I saw it. I looked at it and like, okay, yeah, that's definitely tinier than the PS5. But also, boy, that thing is unexciting. There's just nothing that motivates me. And I was wondering if Series X might be the console that finally got me to buy an Xbox. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, no, I'm good.
I will give them this, though. The unboxing experience between Series X and PS5, Microsoft did a hell of a better job. Like, infinitely better. Yeah, it's like the Series X comes in, for lack of a better term, like a shoebox style box, where like it folds... shoebox is totally the wrong term, but so the box like has a flap. You pull up the flap, and then it opens outward like this, and then the console's just right there, and it has like a little wrapping that says like "Power Your Dreams" or what is some marketing bullshit. But you pull it off, and there it is. There's your console. You just plop the thing down, and then you through the Xbox app, you just scan your console, and it moves all your stuff over. No setup needed. That's cool. They nailed it in terms of how to set this thing up, whereas we'll get into Sony later, but I'm gonna have
to learn about this since I have a PS5 coming.
Yeah, true. I think Michael Phone kind of hit it on it when they said I think Game Pass is going to be the quote unquote exciting thing, kind of as you guys have been saying, and as I've said in other discussions, Microsoft this generation is de-emphasizing hardware more than ever, and they're going to a more service-based model. That is what they want us to care about. Sony, on the other hand, is going with that very generational approach of new hardware and making the new hardware the focus. And as someone who's grown up primarily playing on consoles since the NES, that's the approach I prefer. I guess that's my old man yelling at the sky moment. However, I totally get where Microsoft is going with this. It may not be what I want, and it may not be the approach that appeals to me, because kind of like what you guys said, this thing is boring to me. I'm not, shout out to all the Xbox fans out there. If you love your Series X or Series S, great. It's a great backwards compatibility machine, great Game Pass machine, absolutely. But I enjoy the newness and the excitement of new hardware. And the PS5 is that, in terms of it's got this wacky design, which I know it's very divisive. Personally, I much prefer the PS5's design aesthetically over the Series X, although that might be because I'm not a PC gamer at all, and I've never really been into PC gaming. And, you know, that's, as you said, Steve, the Series X just looks like a PC enclosure, essentially. Nothing wrong with that. And I know my acquaintance, John Lindemann over Digital Foundry, much prefers the Series X design. He and I had a bit of a debate over that on Discord, and it was fun. And I totally get why people feel that way, but I like having that focus on the hardware, and especially the controller. The Xbox Series X controller, it's another Xbox controller. It's a great controller, but there's nothing new about it. Whereas the DualSense, for me at least, has been a game changer so far in one specific game that we're going to talk about soon. But, you know, either way, I think clearly Microsoft has had a successful launch with this thing, but you brought up a really good point, I think, the other day, Steve, in which you're saying, you know, on Twitter, on my timeline, I'm not seeing people go nuts for Xbox Series X. Where can I find a Series X? I can't find any. They're all talking about PS5. So, for better and worse, with, you know, in terms of the approach Microsoft is taking here with the Series X and S by de-emphasizing the hardware, the conversation has been dominated by PS5. And we'll have to see how this all shakes out for them, but clearly I think there's a lot less energy out of the gate for Series X than there has been for PS5.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to November 12th. 2 days
Actually,
later.
one more thing. Sorry, Derek, really quick, but somebody did bring this up in the chat. November 9th saw a very important launch as well to us in particular, which is, of course, the launch of Good Vibes Gaming. And we're not going to talk about that, of course. But November 9th was the launch of GVG. And
that's weird.
I just figure we should...
So all this stuff you're talking about, we had already covered it by the time it came out, which is both good and very tiring.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Anyway, November 12th, 2 days later, PS5 releases, and time for another lineup of games. But the big one, well, the first one we got here is our pack-in game, Astro's Playroom, which I have not played yet, so I'll leave it to you guys.
Man. Astro's Playroom is straight up revelatory in terms of the technology. And, like, I can't think of any game outside of Wii Sports, and I truly believe that Astro's Playroom is like a Wii Sports level pack-in game. Like, it does such a great job of selling you on the uniqueness of the DualSense controller. And it's probably only the second time in my history of gaming that I have played a game and been like, wow, like this feels different, with the other time being, you know, the Wiimote for the first time. Like, picking up a Wii remote and swinging it around and being like, holy crap, this thing moves, you know. We all learned it was way less sensitive than that, but the initial wow factor was there. And I think the Astro's Playroom does a great job of showing you, like, hey, you know, the DualSense is a pretty complex piece of kit, and it can do a lot of stuff, but it also manages to do that while being an incredibly fun game.
Yeah, I mean, this game was like one of the surprise hits of the year for me. I didn't play Rescue Mission because I never had PlayStation VR, even though I've heard it was fantastic, and I really want to play it. But I just, you know, didn't have much pre-existing love for Astro going into this game, and I was like, oh, it's a pack-in game. It'll probably be pretty cool, but, you know, it's a pack-in game, and, you know, really the only super notable pack-in game that we've had is Wii Sports. There are others, but Wii Sports is, of course, the standard bearer, so I wasn't expecting a whole lot. This is maybe not the most important pack-in game ever. That is still Wii Sports, but Astro's Playroom is my favorite pack-in game ever, and it's not even close. Like, what an absolute delight of a game. And for me, this was what really thrust the DualSense into the incredible light that I see it in now. I mean, when you're just starting the game and you know, literally the game has a tutorial segment where it takes you through the different functions of the DualSense, and it's pretty cool. But then when you get to the adapter trigger section, and the first time I did that, the first time I pulled on the trigger and had that pushback, because you're essentially launching like a rocket, that was like a sit up, holy shit, this feels next gen moment for me. And I it sounds so marketing, and I know how bad that sounds, but I promise I mean it. It was a true holy shit moment for me, and I'm like, okay, this is different. This is an absolute just absolute gulf in difference between the DualShock 4 and the DualSense. Like, and to me, that is what makes the PS5 feel truly next gen, is a game like Astro's Playroom fully taking advantage of what the DualSense can do. And after playing that, I don't want to, like, that is a big draw for me. Do I play something on Switch for portability? Sure. Or do I play it on PS5 for not only 4K, but this incredible tech and this DualSense? And I gotta say, like, that's a huge draw for me now. It's I like calling it 4K Rumble, because it's more than HD Rumble. HD Rumble on Switch is great, but this is like Ultra HD Rumble, and it's awesome.
And Astro's already excited about that, so this is definitely hitting all his buttons.
Yeah,
it's so cool to me.
It really is, and it's one of those things where if you haven't used it, you're gonna be like, yeah, whatever. But once,
which is kind of where I'm at right now. Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I have to see this when I finally get this.
Totally
like, is it really going to be that good? Is it? I don't know,
dude. I am so excited to hear your take once you get your PS5, because I guarantee you, you will be right here with us being like, oh my God, it's so cool, raving about it right here on TNT the day after you play it. I would be shocked if you weren't blown away by this, because I think everybody who understands what goes into games, people that have a deep understanding of how all this stuff works and the kind of work it takes to put stuff like this together is floored by this technology. It is that damn good. And it really does it is the first console, like Ash said, that makes me wonder, like, oh man, should I give up my portability on this and play it over here? Because it is more immersive when you play it on the DualSense. I mean, so really for me, it's kind of, it's a big toss up at this point. Like, I love portability on the Switch, but man, I really do love playing games on the PS5. Like, it is a hard choice to make now, whereas before I would 9.8 times out of 10 go for the Switch version of anything, just for that portability factor. Now I actually think twice before I pull the trigger on those purchases.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really is that great. And it's not even just the controller. There's so many different loving references to PlayStation's entire history, from PS1 all the way up through PS4, and not even just like the systems themselves, but all the different games and Sony properties, and even a lot of third-party properties that are heavily associated with PlayStation. Like, there are Silent Hill references. There's a Final Fantasy VII reference. Like, it is a true love letter. If you have any love for the PlayStation brand and you've grown up with PlayStation, which you do, yeah, we all have. There's so much love packed into that game for just everything PlayStation. And I don't even, like, I'm not a trophy guy. I don't go for trophies. I'm not a trophy hunter. Least of all platinum trophies. As soon as I finished this game, the first thing I did was look up the rest of the trophies I needed to get to see how much more I could extend the gameplay time.
Yep,
just
same.
to get the platinum, because I just didn't want it to end.
Yep,
Nice.
I platinumed this game as well. I was like, I had a console to review, and I was still like, I'm going to come back and platinum this still. And I platinumed Astrobot before it came out. It was only my second platinum ever. So
I've had a few, but I'm like, platinum's always a good indication that I really like a game, because I platinumed Kingdom Hearts 3, I can't platinum Final Fantasy VII Remake. There
you go.
That's usually a good sign that I really like a game.
Same.
And Wani in the chat is asking me to stream my reaction to Astro's Playroom. Maybe I'll do that on the channel.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Either way, we got to move on, because already we're like running. We're getting close to that time. It's like, oh God, we're already.
Part 5.
There will not be a part 5.
No, there's no part 5. We are not doing a part 5. With that said, Bugsnax, a game that caught on to with a lot of people. Have people talking about it. I obviously did not pick it up in time. I didn't even think to on PS4. I don't even know if it was available on the PS Plus. But yeah.
I feel so bad for the people that made this game, because it was never, ever, ever, ever going to deliver on the hype that was created around it by people who were oddly enchanted by the idea of eating insects. But I played this game, and it highlighted a real weird issue on pre-release PS5s, where sometimes if a game had a PS4 and PS5 version, it just would arbitrarily pick one. And
they fixed that now. But
it's fixed now, but like, I was trying to review the damn thing, and it would and it downloaded both versions, so it was taking up twice the amount of space, and I had to go through like a weird ritual every time I wanted to launch Bugsnax. But that's not Bugsnax's fault. What is Bugsnax's fault is that Bugsnax sucks. It is a boring, awful game. It is super stupid. Like, and I'm not talking like Viva Pinata, most people will love it anyway, stupid. I'm talking like oddly dark and deals with the destruction of the world, stupid. It just, like, the game that it is in the actual gameplay sense and the game that it is on the internet and in trailers are two separate things that do not coexist at all. And the version we actually got is boring and terrible. And I suggest that you not play it. But if you're going to, just realize that what you think it is isn't what it is. And what it actually is not good. That's all I got.
The narrative surrounding this game just absolutely mystifies me. And because this was not, when I first saw the reveal trailer, I was not into it. I was like, oh, whatever, this just kind of looks like not my thing. But then it came out, and yeah, I've heard a lot of people say pretty much exactly what you just did, Steve. But then there are other people who, when I said I was getting my PS5, they were like, oh my God, it's arriving on Monday. That's the last day for you to get Bugsnax on PlayStation Plus. Make sure you get it. My favorite game of the year, holy shit. And I'm like, really? And then people started telling me about this. It's apparently very dark and very, there's a lot of existentialism in it. And I'm like, are we talking about the same game? Bugsnax is about like the end of the world and existential crises. Like, what in the world? So I actually haven't played it, but I do have it downloaded on my PS5 just for pure, because I got it in time for PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
Just for pure curiosity. So I haven't played it yet, but just the dueling narrative surrounding this game absolutely fascinate me.
Yeah.
I mean, I because I didn't plan on playing this game, I just looked up the ending back before I started, because what I heard was basically what Steve said. It was like, it's fine at best. Nothing too special or anything like that. But so I looked up the ending. I saw the ending, what actually happened. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, it is fascinating where they go with it, but it's also one of those, okay, how do people expect this? And I think it comes down to one of those things is like, do you get involved in this game enough that you are sucked into this darker sense, the undertones and the characterizations, or do you look at this and be like, this is dumb? It really does feel like it's one of two extremes.
Yeah, to me...
Well, even people in our chat here are just saying game of the generation, the sleeper hit, Michael Phone, Bugsnax is the best game of 2020. Like, and I don't think all of this is I'm not seeing that this is
it's not hyperbole
facetious either.
No.
Like you really mean it. And so I'm just so interested that the same game could make people feel so differently about it.
So to Cloud and Collected's comment, he says, wow, now I wonder... No wonder I never played Bugsnax despite having it installed. Not even good use of DualSense. I don't know. Like I said, half the time it booted up the PS4 version. It was all pre-release. It was real buggy. So I wouldn't want to comment on how the DualSense works with the game because honestly, I bounced off it before it even came out. So I would save that for I might go back and try it again and just see. But honestly, it was just one of those games where I knew it was utterly unappealing to me from the moment I started it. And I just had zero interest in continuing, especially with, working on the console review. I had a lot of other games to be working on at the time.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and move on now that Steve has made all the enemies. Here's the question is, are you dead? Because next up is Demon's Souls. Pretty much the game lifted up as the only truly original release outside of Astro's Playroom that the PlayStation 5 got. The only exclusive it really had. And it looks good. I had and played a little bit of the original Demon's Souls on PS3, but I died in a very unfortunate spot and for whatever reason could not get back to my body or even make any progress because I couldn't make an elevator appear anymore. So I kind of just gave up. But I really did enjoy what I played the first time, and this is definitely going to be on my list of games to get once I have my PlayStation 5. Don't know exactly when I'll get to it because I still need to play Bloodborne, but,
Yeah. As always, too many games, too little time. I have very little to say about Demon's Souls. Sorry, John. John loves FromSoft. He's like a diehard FromSoft fan. These games have just never really appealed to me. I totally get why they're so loved, but it's just not for me. The whole FromSoft aesthetic, it doesn't really appeal to me. So Demon Souls, apparently it's a pretty great remake, but it's just, I don't have much to say about it.
Honestly, I did not expect to love this game, and I do love it. It is, I mean, one, it's spooky. I'm not a big spooky game person. Two, it's hard, and I generally don't like games that feel like they're difficult for difficulty's sake. I like games where I can feel clever, or I can, where the solutions to problems aren't just being real quick on the trigger finger. But for whatever reason, I have really grown to love Demon Souls on the PS5. I've played a bit of it. I haven't had time to really drop in as much time as I would like, but I've killed a few demons, which I never thought I'd be able to say about this game. And it really comes back to thinking methodically about how you're going to approach any given area, right? Like, oh, hey, I know when I cross through this corridor, there's going to be an archer here. And there is a lot of dying and then learning and then dying and then learning until you can finally make it all the way through. But damn, the sense of accomplishment when you do finally make it is so, like, it's a high. You can, like, you're just like, damn, I killed that stupid thing. And it feels like the sense of accomplishment is just really, really good. And it's something that I enjoy, but again, it's one of those games that, because of the nature of our jobs here at GVG, I have to put it down. Then I come back to it, play it for a while, put it down, come back. Maybe sometime I'll finish it this year, but it is. I am going to put this out there, even though it's the sole game. I don't think it even approaches being the best showcase of what the PS5 can do. I think it's neat, but I honestly think Astro and Miles Morales do a much better job of selling you on the PS5 as a console than Demon Souls.
Okay. I see.
One thing I'll say about Demon Souls, I think it was just from one of the developers, how they compared like why people enjoy their style of hard, and he compared it to spicy food. You have food, you have spices. Anything can be spicy, really spicy, and just almost too spicy at a time. But to have it be spicy and still taste good, have to maintain that sense of flavor, that is a tricky balance. And it feels like that's what they've kind of maintained. They found that sweet spot of it's spicy, but it still tastes good. And I found that was a pretty interesting comparison.
I mean, as someone who loves spicy food, spicy that is still tasty food, I'll let you know. When I play Demon Souls, I'll let you know if I find the comparison to be apt.
Yeah. Either way, next up we have going down through looking for stuff I recognize, because I don't know what the heck Maneater is, and nobody cares about Godfall.
I was going to say Godfall, but I don't think any of us played it.
Nobody cares. It
Nope.
is that generic fantasy thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
even so, it's from Epic. That's not Epic. I forget who made Godfall. Gearbox. Thank you.
Yeah.
Either way, Sackboy, a big adventure.
I want to play this,
which I do want to pick up as well.
good.
This seems like ought to be a lot of fun to play with Amy. I hear it's compared to 3D Super Mario 3D World. We actually have a patron, goes by Mama Crocodile, who did art for this game.
Yes,
cool.
we do.
Which, awesome.
I didn't realize. That's awesome. I want to play this so much. It seems like it's a game that's absolutely made for me. Steve, you have given it your blessing. I love a good 3D platformer. And I want to play this. It looks like it's just absolutely bursting with personality and charm and just goodness.
Yeah, this is what I'll say about this is that one, this is tailor-made for you, Ash. Like, really, I can't think of a game that is more tailor-made for you, because you have these they finally got the platforming right, which is a huge thing. I'm so glad that Sumo Digital took the reins of like the Sackboy franchise and split it off of the creative mode of Little Big Planet, because I think Media Molecule does a great job of making these open-ended creation tools, but they're not so great at the platforming side of things, making a Mario-like, if you will. And I think giving Sumo the ability to just take the character Sackboy and make an actual proper platforming game with them was such a smart idea. But the game's highest points are music related. And
you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, the levels that are synced to like real life popular songs performed by the original artists is so good. I mean, they have Bowie in there, and like it's just every time one of those would come on, I could not help but grin ear to ear while I played through those levels. And of course, it makes you want to platform in cadence with the song. So it like creates this really great rhythm of how you like time your jumps, time your moves, and it just feels so damn satisfying. And
I love when platformers do that.
Yeah, I just wish that more games would explore that idea. But Sackboy is a must-have. If you don't have a PS5, it's on PS4. I'm sure it's really fantastic there too. It's not like a showcase of what the PS5 can do by any stretch, but goddamn, it's so fun. Just go buy it.
Also,
I can't wait.
Real quick, Steve, I think we might have a bit of breaking news, but looking at the chat.
Oh. Let's see.
Let's see here.
I am not getting any breaking news.
Well, according to Legend of Groose, they just updated it to executive producer.
Oh, wow. Well,
nice.
I apologize.
I
the Patreon has failed to notify me. So I appreciate your contribution. Let's take a look here. It's not like I can't look.
Yeah, just gotta look.
They gotta email me. See, there we go. So up from $15 a month. Hey, we also Ved Hotik jumped up from $10 a month to $25 a month. Thank you so much.
Thank you
two
so
new
much, both of you.
EPs joining the EP squad.
Dang.
So
thank you very much, both
Let me
of you.
get that.
Yeah. I love that we have someone named The Legend of Groose and that we get to read that out every night.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's so good.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
The Groose is loose. Damn it. I say stuff sometimes and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to see that on Twitter later.
Had your Phil Dunphy moment. I have many of those moments. Yeah. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, seriously.
It's so kind of you. And just more people in the EP squad. We're so grateful.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Seriously.
But so Sackboy, I gotta play it. I don't even usually like licensed soundtracks like that, so for me the idea of a licensed soundtrack that enhances the game that it's in, in a gameplay sense, that makes me very excited. And I have to check this game out.
Nice.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. But let's move on to probably what most people consider the showcase game of the PS5, even though Demon's Souls is the only one that was technically exclusive. Spider-Man Miles Morales. Which
of course
does look freaking gorgeous.
Oh my god.
On PS5.
It is.
Yeah. I assume you've played this by now, right, Ash?
I have. I was able to use a buddy of my my buddy's account to just check it out through his. Because I don't have time to play it right now, so there's really no point in me buying it at the moment. But I played like the first few hours, and well, first of all, what an intro! Holy crap, what an intro that is. But yeah, then once the game itself gets started in earnest, it's if you played Spider-Man Remastered, you certainly know what you're in for, but it takes what you played, or even just the original Spider-Man, not Remastered, but the original, you know what you're in for, but Miles feels different to play as than Peter. Like his swinging animations are different, he's got different powers, like with the Venom stuff, so it's similar, but also different, and I really, really like what I played so far.
Yeah, I would say that Miles Morales makes the strongest case for ray tracing in any game I've played so far on the PS5. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is hard to describe, but the moments you capture in-game look like cutscenes from the previous generation. Like you're playing in that high-res cutscene mode all the time. And I mean, this game also has a 4K 60 mode, a 4K 30 mode, a 1080p 60 mode. Like, I mean, they just gave you all kinds of options. I've played through this entire game and completed every trophy that I can complete during the regular game, and now I'm on New Game Plus trying to play through it again to get the platinum because there's like 3 additional skills or something. It's a really short, I mean, by AAA standards, it's short. It's like 10 hours, but it is such a damn
nice,
enjoyable
though,
10
Yeah,
hours.
it's not. That doesn't sound bad to me, honestly.
Yeah, for me,
No,
I
it really
find
is
that refreshing these days. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when they sent it over and I was like, I'm reviewing 2 consoles and I'm reviewing this, I was like, oh god, thank god it's short. Like, thank god it's not a crazy time commitment, but good lord, it it is the case for playing this for buying this console right now. Like, I mean, yeah, it's available on PS4, but it is miles better on PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I thought was really cool too is that my wife wanted to see it, so she was with me as I was playing it for the first time. And one of the first things she noticed playing it on PS5 was that they got the texture of Miles's hair. She's like, they got for as black hair, like they got it right. They actually got the texture of his hair as a black person correct. Mm-hmm. And for that's a huge that's high praise from her. So that means a lot to me coming from her to hear that. So I love that they are taking so much care and attention to detail and getting the representation part of this right, and not just doing the bare minimum.
Yeah. I love that they have Evan Narcisse, who used to be a writer for Kotaku and slowly kind of worked his way into comics, but he wrote an incredible essay that really taught me a lot about black hair in video games and how huge games with gigantic budgets would still get this wrong. And so I was really happy, because again, it's something that when I heard his name was attached to it, I paid very close attention to. And I was like, I mean, as well as I can notice, because obviously I'm not coming from a place of authenticity here. But it looked like they did a great job. So I'm really glad to hear that Basola agrees that they did, a fantastic job on it, because it's one of those things where, I really had never thought about it before I read Evan's really thoughtful piece on black hair in video games. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that must suck. Like, that must suck really bad to know that you're a huge fan of games and you do all these, games where you can create a character and you can never make someone that truly resembles who you are. So I'm really glad that, at least for this game, even though it's a fixed character, that they at least got it right. And there's a gigantic BLM tribute in the game, which I love. I think that's just great.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't think I realized. On the other side of that, as Juan mentions in the chat here, Ash, you're forgetting that they changed Peter's face. Yeah, and you know what? This isn't, I'm not obviously the kind of guy who's going to go and rage on social media about anything, but I uniformly, across the board, hate this change. I think it
was so unnecessary.
And I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, but that is
He's too young.
Character. Yeah, that is a different character. This version of Peter is supposed to be older. He's several years out of college. He's more experienced. And they made him look like a kid, and I don't like it. I don't like his new face. I don't like the way I feel bad for the actor who they based the model they based his face on. I'm sure he's a great guy. Wrong choice for this version of Peter Parker, in my opinion. I don't like it.
I have mixed feelings about this. Taken in a still, I actually prefer the look of new Peter Parker. But when paired with Yuri Lowenthal's voice, like when I see him moving and speaking, I'm like, that doesn't fit the age of this face that I'm seeing. Like, there's a huge amount of cognitive dissonance created by hearing that voice on that young of a face. So I find that to be really jarring. But other than that, I would say aesthetically it looks good. But yeah, it doesn't fit the voice performance at all, which to me is a major problem.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't ruin the game or anything. I'm not being dramatic about it. The game is still awesome, but I just really don't like that creative decision personally.
How hard would it be to just let people toggle? I mean,
I wonder. Yeah.
Just let me switch it back because I mean, he doesn't talk a lot in Miles Morales, so it wasn't a big deal to me there. But when I started playing Spider-Man Remastered, I was like, this feels weird. I don't like this.
Yeah.
All I'll say is, so I don't have a PS5 yet. I'm February 2nd, hopefully picking one up. As long as it doesn't get canceled on me last minute, you never know. Until that thing's in my hands, I don't trust anything, but we'll see.
That's fair.
Fingers crossed. The 3 games I plan on picking up, since Astro's Playroom is a pack-in, is Demon Souls, Sackboy, and Miles Morales. So
nice.
Should be a lot of fun.
One game I want to mention before we move on. I don't think I realized this was a PS5 launch title, but it appealed to me when I saw it in the state of play it was revealed in, and that's The Pathless, published by Annapurna, whose stuff I typically love. So I still want to go back and check this out. I don't think I realized it was out, but hopefully people liked it. Of course, I haven't played it, but
I haven't really heard much about it, to be honest. But since I'm going to look at it, but you guys can go ahead and tell me what you think about the PS5 so far, because I can't do that.
Man,
I mean, What is there to say? Go ahead, Steve.
I was in a weird situation where the PS5 showed up like the day before the Series X. So I got mine before I had an Xbox, and I just remember thinking like, man, this is what I love about new console generations. Like, I mean, this thing is wacky and stupidly big, and but it's new. It feels new, and I love that. Like, I look at this thing and I'm like, there's no way there's not like a revision coming in a couple years that makes this whole thing smaller. But
yeah,
it doesn't really matter once you're playing. Like, once you boot this thing up, it's got a 4K HDR user interface. It's all the neat bells and whistles that make you feel like that $500 you spent went somewhere. It doesn't feel
well
like
said.
Yeah, and it's just like the controller is incredibly neat. I love everything about this, and it feels like space age and modern and new. Yeah. And the Xbox, by comparison, feels like upgrading a computer you already own. Like, it feels like,
that's a really good way to put it.
It works better, but it's still the same thing I had before, whereas the PS5 is like, here's this new shiny hotness that you definitely want, and we're going to give you all the reasons in the world to drop money on it, even if the software is technically all stuff that you could still get on the old machine. It just has that feeling of next gen, and I think that's something that still means a lot. Like, I underestimated how much it means to me to get something that feels brand new and exciting. I love it. And I think it's a big part of the reason why people are on Twitter going wild trying to find a PS5, because it feels like a generational leap, whereas the Series X feels like a big upgrade, but still just an upgrade.
Well, and for the first time... Oh, go ahead. Derrick.
I'm just going to real quick before you give your thoughts, Ash. I'm seeing in the chat, like, a lot of people are saying, I basically use it for my PS4 backlog and haven't played it in a little bit. And that sounds very familiar to me to when the PS2 launched. Because PS2 didn't have the greatest launch lineup either. Like, I think SSX was the big title at the time or something like that. And I remember mainly using it for my PS1 games, but they had that smoothing option. I was like, oh, that's cool. So it's kind of a blast from the past, even in that respect. And hey, I'm cool with it. It seems fine. I'm excited to get it out of the box and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I love how bold its design is physically. Like, I know it's definitely divisive, but it kind of gives me like an iMac vibe back when the iMac was new and that design was considered bold and futuristic and gotta have it. It kind of reminds me of that sort of aesthetic. And I personally really fall on the side of people who love this design. I love the contrast between the white and the black. And I think what I like about it most is that it doesn't feel like another iteration on the PS2, PS3, PS4 style of design. The PS1 still stands out for looking quite different compared from the 2, 3, and 4, which obviously they look different, but they're all quite in line with one another in terms of how they're all black and just kind of horizontal box-like shape. Whereas the PS5 is another departure for PlayStation, design-wise, and I like that about it. As you said, Steve, it feels and it looks new. The controller feels new as well. I mean, DualShock 4, great controller. DualSense feels like just a massive step up in every way for me. And, I can't say the same thing about the various generations of Xbox controllers. And I think you put it really well, Steve, when you said that getting a new Xbox feels like upgrading something you already own, as opposed to a brand new piece of tech. And yeah, I think I too underestimated how much that meant to me in terms of a new generation of consoles. And I really just enjoy the newness feeling of the PS5. And even though I have some grievances with the UI itself in terms of how to access certain things, the fact that the UI is 4K HDR, it looks incredible. And just for fun, I turned off the HDR the other day just to see the difference. And the difference is like, if you don't ever turn it off, you don't know what you're missing, of course. But man, when you turn off HDR, it looks so much, I hesitate to say worse, because the stuff looks amazing anyway, but it really does make a huge difference. And it's quiet. My PS4 Pro sounded like a jet engine every time I would play FF7 Remake or something. And it would just, I felt like my PS4 was either going to explode or just take off into the stratosphere. Thankfully, neither ever happened. But the PS5 is so quiet, and it's the loading times are so incredibly fast. And that was of course one of the big talking points back before its launch, and it absolutely delivers on that. And yeah, I really enjoy the experience of using this thing, aside from a few UI, things that I don't love. Like, I'm still getting used to just tapping the PlayStation button instead of holding it. That's really weird. But I'll get used to that.
Yep. Well, let's move on, since we are running a long time. We do want to finish up this retrospective this time. Yes. And get beyond the console launches, because on the 13th, a day later, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory released. Now, Ash is basically going to be talking about this by himself, because I've seen a bit of it played by Amy. She's actually beaten the game. I have not. I've barely had a chance to put time into it. Just too busy. But Ash, I know you've beaten it. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually going to review this, and then, of course, just things got too busy with my regular work, and just stuff got piled up, so I just haven't gotten around to it. But I did finish it, and I played the hell out of it. And I liked it a lot. I'd probably, in our rating scale, I'd probably go with great vibes, I think, is how I'm feeling about it. I want to go back and play more. But yeah, I played the entire story mode, and it's not at first what I thought it was going to be. Back when it was announced, I was like, oh, Theater Rhythm Kingdom Hearts, that's awesome. And it's kind of that, but it's also very much its own thing, too. And so there's a bit of Theater Rhythm DNA in there, but it's not really played like previous Theater Rhythm games. It's very much its own thing. And I enjoy it. I definitely have some complaints with visibility. Sometimes on some of the Proud Mode charts, the way you're supposed to read the enemies coming down, coming down from the distance into the foreground, it can get a little muddled and get a little busy, and that's not great for a rhythm game. But all in all, those instances, I think, are fairly few and far between, especially once you get good at the game. And it's definitely one of those, it has that rhythm game appeal of you can see and hear yourself and feel yourself getting better the more you play. And then, of course, it's all done against the backdrop of Kingdom Hearts music, which is some of the best music ever. And, you've got a really nice selection of over 140 tracks from the first game all the way up through Kingdom Hearts 3, even if I will say the Kingdom Hearts 3 selection's pretty lacking, unfortunately. But everything else about the game is really, it's just a lot of fun, tons of replay value. There's a bunch of stuff you can unlock in the gallery. I still hope I get to, review it properly, but I would be probably giving it great vibes in an official review. And, I really enjoyed this game, and it's a Kingdom Hearts music game. I mean, you're already checking off a bunch of really important boxes for me right there. But thankfully, that game itself is also very good.
Yep. I'm looking forward to taking the time to actually sit down and play it, but I haven't had the time.
And the new story developments for the hardcore fans of us, Derrick. You definitely need to play that so we can finally have our long-awaited Kingdom Hearts discussion.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about where the heck it's going to go next. I got into it a little bit with my World Ends With You deep dive, so we'll see. Either way, let's go ahead and move on. Let's see, the next big release in November really was Age of Calamity on the 20th. And I don't know if we really need to talk about it too much more, since we had that huge hour, plus long discussion about our thoughts. We really liked it.
Know what we think. Age of Calamity is good in some ways, not so good in some others, depending on who you talk to on this panel. But we have a great video about it. It's a TNT episode length discussion, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. But I will say this. It surprised me in both good and bad ways. I liked it. There were things I didn't like about it. But overall, I still say it's a great game worth picking up.
I think it's
I would agree with
overall a stronger package than the original Hyrule Warriors.
Yes.
As long as you're not looking for that classic character variety. I think that's where it's a little bit weaker. But it's also so much more streamlined and fun. I think it really nails a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely check out our spoiler discussion for our full thoughts on the game when we really go into it. But this was one of the most surprising games of the year for me, just because I expected to want to play it for exactly as long as it took me to experience the story. Because I was, like you guys, curious about how that was going to fit into Breath of the Wild and the whole time travel thing, how that was going to work out. Turns out, I don't even like Musou games like that, but I love the gameplay loop. It's all so streamlined in this game that I couldn't put it down until I'd 100%ed it. And I really super enjoyed this game. So I definitely recommend it. And it's not perfect. Definitely not. It's got some significant issues, but I had a blast with this game. And it was one of the most positive surprises of the year for me. Really quick, do we want to mention Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate? Did any of us play that? I played it a little bit.
I mean, that came out on Stadia, so whatever. I'm sorry. I saw Stadia released later. It came out on everything. It's Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
It looks fantastic on PS5. I'll just say that much. I have it on PS5, and holy crap, it looks amazing.
Yeah. Y'all have heard my thoughts on it. I don't need to relitigate why RoboCop is awesome in this game. I'm good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just as a quick mention to build up to something else, World of Warcraft Shadowlands, a new expansion for that game, came out on the 23rd and became I think it's the fastest selling PC game ever at that point. Like, just massive sales. World of Warcraft still very, very popular. But we'll get back to that because I'm just using that as a jumping off point for a bit later. But hey, we've reached December. Finally, after an hour and 20 minutes. Fortunately, it's December. Not a lot in here to really talk about. First one I'll mention, just looking through this lineup, is Immortals Fenyx Rising.
Yes. This game...
Yeah, you have some thoughts on this, right, Steve?
Yeah, this game is so good, and people are sleeping on it. It is an incredible game. It's not going to be your game of the generation, probably not even your game of the year, but it is super enjoyable. It is one of those adventure games. It has just enough Breath of the Wild vibes to it to make it really engaging from a gameplay perspective, but it's also a comedy. And I don't think that's something that people touch on enough in coverage of it.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be funny. And so, it's narrated by Zeus, and other gods are constantly talking shit to him and giving him, telling him how parts of the story he tells are complete crap and he's lying and other stuff like that. And it actually makes you chuckle as you go about a serious-ish adventure. And you can, the world is huge, it's gorgeous, it's semi-cel shaded. Just trust me, pick it up on some platform. You will really enjoy it. I think it's $29 already on the Switch. So absolutely worth checking out.
Amy picked it up on a sale. She's played a little bit of it, not too far into it, but she really enjoyed what she's played. From what I can tell, it looks cute.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It looks cool. I mean, it of course reminds me of Breath of the Wild more than anything, just from a visual and visual sense and what I've seen of the gameplay. But I'd certainly have interest in the game. It's kind of on my radar in that sense. It's just a matter of, do I have, am I interested in it enough to put aside all the other games I'm also interested in playing?
Right.
There's just so much. But it looks pretty cool. I didn't know it was a comedy, though. I don't think that's been spotlighted well at all. Yeah,
there's more commentary. I don't know if the game itself is funny or just the commentary over the gameplay.
Yeah, it's the commentary over the gameplay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, I do want to point out, just because I did this in the last episode, there is an incredibly stupid game that released in December. And I'm talking about
games.
Tanuki Sunset, a vaporwave racing game where you play a raccoon on a skateboard.
Okay.
I don't think I need to really sell it more than that. That is awesome.
I've heard of this. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is on PC only.
Yeah.
But damn it, is it incredible.
Oh yeah, there it is on the 4th. Well, I have another game to talk about on the 4th because that's when Nintendo released Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. Again, not going to cover this too much, but hey, cool that we finally got the original Fire Emblem translated and on a console for a limited time, but we did get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say the same thing here that I said previously about this. I think this is so cool. Hell yeah for Fire Emblem fans. I think this is great.
Yeah.
I want to see Nintendo do this stuff more. But god damn it reopened that Mother 3 wound for me. And it opened it hard.
Your legacy,
and
Nintendo.
It hasn't scabbed back over yet, Nintendo. You ripped that wound right back open. You're pouring some lime juice in there, some salt. This one's gonna take a while to not have hurt anymore. But I am very happy for the Fire Emblem fans out there, and I think it's really cool that they did this at all.
Yeah, there's some good quality of life stuff in there, make it a little bit more manageable. Not a very varied soundtrack, I should say, but it's quite good. The only real complaint I had in the little bit I played of it when I did that stream is when you fast forward stuff going on, it also fast forwards the music, which I find a little distracting and not great. But that's really only the major issues. Continuing on, December 8th we got we don't need to talk about it more, but Doom Eternal finally came out on the Switch, and also Puyo Tetris 2. I need to pick this game up. I really enjoyed the original. It's a fun, wacky game, very colorful, very fun. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Puyo, it still looks like it still looks delightful.
Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts on this. I'm not a big Puyo Tetris guy, but I know people freaking love this game and were so hyped that it came out. I love the aesthetics of it. I know Sonic was just added as a playable character. That's cool. I on its face, this appeals to me, but then I realize and I remember that I don't actually love the moment-to-moment gameplay of Puyo that much. And Tetris, Tetris obviously is a classic, and it will always be. But I don't know if I love Tetris enough to want to play it that much. Same thing, reason I don't play Tetris 99. For me, Tetris Effect, the appeal is all the cool visuals and the music, right? So on its face, it seems like a game that I would love aesthetically, but I'm not a big puzzle game guy outside of Tetris Attack.
That's fair. I'm not a big Puyo Tetris guy either. I originally played Puyo Tetris at the Nintendo Switch preview event in New York, and they paired me up with someone who was clearly like a Puyo Tetris master. He was kicking the shit out of me at this game while telling people about it in a Discord. Literally one-handed destroying me at this game while typing messages about how bad I am at said game. I was like, oh, I respect this.
That's funny.
That's a flex. That's a major flex.
Derrick, you forgot a massive first-party Nintendo release, man. I'm surprised you missed it.
Where?
Fitness Boxing 2, Rhythm and Exercise, man. Come on.
Does Nintendo do that? I thought that was somebody else. Oh, I did not realize that was published by Nintendo. Whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously kidding. It's not even worth mentioning. But yeah, Fitness Boxing 2 happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, remember how I mentioned that the new World of Warcraft Shadowlands was the best-selling PC game of all time?
Indeed.
Well, that was quickly supplanted by our game released on December 10th, Cyberpunk 2077. Very good news. And about the only good news for a while because, oh boy.
Just about.
Cyberpunk 2077. We've talked about that game a lot on TNT. It just kept popping up in the news for a while there. But I can't say I was ever interested in checking out the game. It just never really clicked with me. And all the previews I saw, I was like, yeah, it looks kind of neat, but it's also, I'm okay. And then it just kind of fell apart completely, apparently. Because, wow.
Man. Yeah. I gotta say, so this game, I chased review code for this game for 2 years. And it did not pay off. But
nope.
It was I feel incredibly fucking bad for the PR people that had to roll out review code for this game, because those poor folks this was like a perfect storm of things you don't want to happen when you're repping a game. Because the PR folks are not the folks at all involved with making the game. But they have to deal with the media folks that want their hands on the game so they can do their jobs. They have to deal then with the fallout from if the game turns out bad. So these guys were handed a shit sandwich and basically told, you need to eat this while the world watches you do it.
God.
There's a point at which, as someone planning to review a game, you begin to get nervous. It's usually about the 2 to 3 days before release mark, and you're like, hey, buddy, your game, it's like 100 hours, and it's 2 days before it comes out. What's going on? And, I feel bad because I tried very much not to be the person ever sending that message, because I figure at that point you're either not going to let me review it or there's a problem. And it turned out we were definitely firmly in column B. And they fortunately I'm pretty good friends with one of the folks that was handling this game, and he messaged me and he's like, hey, look, man, it ain't great, The situation's not great. And what I'm going to tell you is that, they're not letting us send you guys copies of the game until the 8th. And I was like, oh, that's a bad time. And he was just like, yeah, he's like, it is a bad time. He's like, just, do whatever you can, which the funny thing is, I think there's a great game under here. There is truly a really fun game under here. And, again, I played through it on PS5, so a lot of the issues that people have reported since didn't happen to me. And I find that to be deeply unfortunate because it also colors your coverage. It makes it to where, people... My experience was, yeah, it crashed a lot. Yeah, there were some bugs, but I really, really liked it, And folks that didn't have a PS5, which is most folks, just had to play it on PS4 Pro or PS4, like the base PS4. And I saw those videos and I was like, holy hell, like, how does this happen? And there's really no like good way to talk about it in a positive way anymore because everyone is mad. Everyone is so angry. But what I will say is if they eventually clean it up to the point or just people start to adopt higher, more powerful consoles at a higher rate because maybe they make more. But if you can play it on next gen hardware, it's playable. It's playable, which is the best thing I can say for it. But there is there's very clear evidence that it is an incredibly rushed game. It's not a finished product. Even if it works, it doesn't feel like a finished product. And I touched on this in my review. There's a lot of parts of the game that don't matter. Like your conversation choices almost never matter. Your background that you choose, like if you're a corpo or a street kid or a nomad, it doesn't matter. Like you play a different prologue and that's it. And you get different dialogue choices, but I just told you those don't matter. So there, it's a lot of things where you could see that they wanted to build out this connective tissue and make something similar in depth to The Witcher, which I think is a great RPG, but they just didn't have the time. And, it sucks, but it is what it is now, I guess. And I hope that they update the game. But I will say there is the beginning of a really great game under there. And I think what we got saddled with is a game that right now is not good, but could at its theoretical peak, patches, DLC, all that down the road, be good at best, which is really unfortunate because I thought this could be a genre defining type of game. And I think a lot of people did. But greed, man.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. It's so hard for me to want to support the game anyway, even if it does. Let's say this does turn into a No Man's Sky situation, which I hope it does, and because I do want the developers to feel like the last decade of their lives was worth something than more than this launch, this incredibly problematic launch. But as bad as I feel for them, it's also hard for me to want to support CDPR because they're the reason these developers are in this situation in the first place. And they basically threw everybody under the bus who's worked on this game by releasing it in a state that they knew it wasn't ready in. And not to mention all the transphobic parts of the company and the other kind of problematic elements, on the front-facing side of things. So it's just very difficult to want to support CDPR as a company right now, even though I do feel really bad for the developers specifically of this game, and I want them, to be able to turn this around, like into a No Man's Sky situation. So here's hoping. It might be something I play down the road, but especially, because this was a game that I had interest in. But it's just the way things turned out and the way CDPR is kind of, making itself look right now. Just not the best time. Not the best time.
Right.
True.
Well, only two more smaller games to talk about before we end this whole year off amazingly. December 15th, we got Collection of SaGa, Final Fantasy Legend. Talk about a collection that just got blown by. We planned on covering this if we got code or if we, could have got code, but no.
I think Square almost forgot it came out.
Yeah, Square continually, they'll throw a bone to SaGa, but then nothing, not really put any meat on there. It just sort of...
I still want to pick this up.
It's forgotten. I do want to pick it up as well, although I'll be honest, I'm waiting for a sale because
Me too.
Saga games have never really quite clicked with me in any kind of form, so I don't want to go into it full price.
No, for me. Yeah,
but
it's a nostalgia trip for me. I played these games on Game Boy. I enjoyed them back in the day.
I think this is technically the first Final Fantasy I ever played. It was Legend on Game Boy, and not
really?
fully
Nice.
Understanding it.
Yeah.
A friend had it, or a cousin, and I tried it out a little bit. I was like, huh. And I didn't quite get it. But, still a good time.
There is one other thing to talk about before your final game, Derek, which I know is probably Super Meat Boy Forever, right?
Yes, but go ahead.
Okay, so one day before that, Sephiroth in Smash, baby.
Oh,
we got
right.
the one-winged angel
Completely
in Smash,
forgot about
and
that.
That was just the most incredible reveal, and all
Yes,
three
it
of
was.
us just had
that
such
was
a fun time that night.
Crazy.
That was, and your reveal, or your reaction, especially Steve, I think was the most. I was agape. I was like, "What?"
Steve's vocal reaction, my facial reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I just couldn't believe it was actually happening. The whole 2-minute trailer we were watching, I still couldn't believe by the end of it. Like, are you fucking serious? Like, it was great.
Yeah,
So,
I couldn't even believe it, and that they opened the Game Awards with that was crazy. I
Right.
expected we'd have at least a few beers down before that happened.
I
but
know, right?
They're like, nope.
right.
Just
And then
right
it
off the bat.
unfortunately ended up being that was arguably the high point of the Game Awards, and then everything after that was
Pretty much
not
true.
quite as interesting.
Yep. But, and he's fun too. Came out
Yeah,
so quickly.
he's fun.
He's fun. I'm going to guess probably don't see it here about the next DLC until March at the earliest.
Probably. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's a lot of fun. Northern Cave is a super cool stage, and we got actual Final Fantasy music, like more
Yeah.
than just 2 rips from the original FF7. We actually got a decent selection now, or a wider selection of Final
Who
Fantasy
would've
music,
guessed?
FF7 music, right?
Finally.
So, definitely my favorite DLC character so far, next to Banjo-Kazooie.
Nice. And yeah, last game for December, Super Meat Boy Forever. The game finally came out, and it was met with a resounding, it's okay.
Not
Yeah.
surprised.
Which
I feel
basically,
bad
from our
for-
time
for
at the
the devs
preview
of this
events, it's
game.
like it's fine, but it's just not the same with it being an auto runner.
That's the thing, is it like, take as much time as you need, of course, release the game when it's ready. But for so many years of build-up, so many delays for what amounts to a pretty typical auto runner, I feel bad for the devs that it just seems like it kind of just came out with very little fanfare, because they were working on it for so long, and you can tell how passionate they are about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I haven't played it myself other than those preview events, but that's really all it came down to. But yeah, no surprise here that December never has the biggest games that, especially after Christmas. And that basically closes up all the releases of 2020. And I believe Ash and I, our game of the year was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Steve, yours was Last of Us Remastered. But there's, as you could tell from us talking about all these, a ton of great games that came out in 2020. More than you'd expect.
I actually thought, Steve, wasn't your game of the year Animal Crossing?
No, it was The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, it was officially.
Oh, I said
Last
Last
of
of
I
Us
said
Remastered.
in a
Sorry.
fair world, and I could redo the whole debate thing, but in a fair world, it would be
No.
Animal Crossing winning awards. But that's already recorded on the channel. Go back. Y'all can
Gotcha.
go watch it. But
Right.
yeah, Last of Us Part
It's
2 is
more
my
personal,
personal
we're
game
talking.
of the year.
Right.
All right, folks. We made it. 2020
did.
is over.
Yeah.
We can put the final nail in 2020's coffin.
Oh,
it gave
thank
us some
God.
bad things. We got the coronavirus, when there was a pandemic, people didn't get to leave their houses, but we got some good things too, like Fight Crab and Tanuki racing.
Hey, and the Sonic movie came out this year, which
The
hey,
Sonic
that's
movie
Yeah,
came out
we got
this
the
year.
Sonic movie. It inspired
Yeah.
Derrick to make a baby. I mean, it inspired John to make a baby. People started making babies after seeing a blue hedgehog in a movie theater. It was a weird year, but it's over.
Nice.
And hey, we started up this channel. So
Yeah,
that's
I was going to
something
say,
too.
you got
Crazy
GVG
year.
this year. This is a
Exactly.
thing that was born in 2020, which may reflect on us poorly someday in the future. Who knows? For now, it's a
well.
real
Hey,
great
Lee-
thing. So
At least it was at the end of 2020.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We
Toward the end
already
of
knew that
2020,
2021 was going to be good. But
Yeah.
we've done it. We've covered all of 2020. It took longer than we thought, but so did 2020. So we're just staying in line with the theme. We got to thank all y'all for sticking with us for 4 whole episodes. What is this? Almost 8 hours of 2020 content. We apologize.
Right?
That's a
Something
lot.
like that.
2020 was a lot. But we got to give a special thank you to all our patrons who joined us over at patreon.com/gvgaming, the folks in the live audience who came to every episode of this, the folks in the producer tier who, without them, this show wouldn't be possible, and our executive producers who seem to just keep piling on every episode. But that's great. We love it. We love y'all. There's a long list of names to read, and I'm going to do just that right now. So huge thank you to our executive producers. Those fine folks are Rob Arman X, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Adam O'Sullivan, Floating Mew, Christopher, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Kieran Phillips, Benny Yao, my mom, hi mom, Geller, Shiny Turkey, Titus Malvolio, Jake Pelka, Michael Phone, Mitchell Herring, Game Explain, Charles Zaz, Andrew Medeiros, Jonathan Belmare, Kitty Kong Facts, Patrick Harrison, Scott Barber, Evernight Studio, Rocks the Cat, Loyal Dingo, Azran127, Phantom 23, Sean Garrett, Shadow the Cat, Guillaume Monet, Kai Ed, Kit Fisto, Orem M, Top Dog 23100, West Egg, Master Links, Sean Davis, Denith, Coda, Lucky Wonderfish, Brandon Bovia, Octopuppet, Charlie Bird, Matthew Wong, Ashish Joshi, Michael McCaw, Eric Flapjack Ashley, Jackson Jordan, Sky Blue Flames, Young Ben Kenobi, Hyrule Hermit, Goron Amber, Straight Lace, Hugo J8A, Seth Walker, Dway, Macalau, Ken Rule 09, Hubi, Marcos Conchas, Wolf X Blake and Moon Macarons, Demon Kid Zaraki, Spencer Cady, Leanne Mustafa, Brooke, Frequent Positron, and our new executive producers as of this episode, Nick Waterman, The Legend of Groose, and Vedron Hotek. Remember, you too can become a Patreon. I hate it when I do that. You too can become a patron over at patreon.com/gvgaming, where you can watch today's news tonight or last year's tonight, in 2022 for as little as $5 a month. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Good Vibes Gaming for more good times like these. Until next time, good night and good vibes. Bye everyone.
Good night, everybody.